Have you ever wondered how far people would go to defend or conquer a city? Throughout history, battles have claimed countless lives, but sieges, the brutal, drawn-out attempts to take fortified cities, stand out as some of the most merciless and bloody events ever recorded. Today, let's explore the 5 bloodiest sieges in history and see what drove armies to turn cities into scenes of utter devastation. Number 5, the Siege of Jerusalem, 70 CE. Our journey begins in ancient Jerusalem, where in 70 CE, the Roman Empire launched one of the most infamous sieges in history. After Jewish rebels revolted against Roman rule, Emperor Vespasian sent his son, Titus, to crush the uprising. With around 60,000 men, Titus surrounded Jerusalem, cutting off supplies and trapping the city's inhabitants inside. For months, the people inside the city endured starvation, disease, and violence. The Romans built siege ramps and battering rams, forcing their way into the city inch by inch. Those who didn't die of starvation or disease were often slaughtered by Roman soldiers. By the end of the siege, it's estimated that over 1 million people, mostly civilians, had lost their lives or were taken as slaves. The destruction was so complete that Jerusalem lay in ruins, and the Jewish population suffered immensely, with many dispersed throughout the empire. The Siege of Jerusalem became a lasting symbol of the horrors of total war. Number 4, the Siege of Constantinople, 1453. Next, we move to Constantinople in 1453, where the powerful walls of the Byzantine capital had stood unbreached for over 1,000 years. But now, the mighty Ottoman Empire, under Sultan Mehmed II, had set its sights on taking the city, the last stronghold of the Byzantine Empire. Mehmed's forces of around 80,000 faced a city defended by just 7,000 soldiers. What made this siege particularly terrifying was the Ottomans' use of massive cannons, which could hurl stones weighing hundreds of pounds. For weeks, the walls of Constantinople held firm, but constant bombardment took its toll. When Mehmed's forces finally breached the city walls, a frenzy of fighting erupted in the streets. Thousands of people were killed, and much of the population was captured or enslaved. The fall of Constantinople marked the end of the Byzantine Empire and the beginning of a new age in European history. The Ottoman victory changed the world. Constantinople became Istanbul, and the fall spurred European exploration as they sought new routes to the east, forever altering the course of history. Number 3, the Siege of Baghdad, 1258. Our third siege took place in Baghdad, the jewel of the Islamic world, in 1258. The Mongols, led by Hulagu Khan, a grandson of Genghis Khan, had already established a reputation for brutality, and they approached Baghdad with the same ruthlessness. The city, then a center of learning and culture, was seen as a prime target. When the Mongols arrived with an army of 150,000, the city's defenders knew they faced a nearly impossible fight. Baghdad's walls offered little defense against the relentless Mongol assault. Once the city fell, the Mongols unleashed a wave of destruction and death. It's said that so many were killed that the Tigris River ran black from the ink of thousands of books thrown in the water and red from the blood of the city's inhabitants. Hundreds of thousands perished in one of the most devastating massacres in history. The fall of Baghdad marked the end of the Islamic Golden Age. It would take centuries for the region to recover from the destruction and loss of knowledge and culture inflicted by the Mongol forces. Number 2, the Siege of Leningrad, 1941 to 1944. Moving into more recent history, the Siege of Leningrad stands as a stark example of suffering and survival. In 1941, German forces began their siege on the Soviet city of Leningrad, modern-day St. Petersburg. The Nazis planned to starve the city into submission rather than storming it outright. For 872 days, the people of Leningrad endured cold, hunger, and relentless bombings. With supply routes cut off, food was scarce, and thousands perished from starvation every day. Citizens resorted to eating anything they could find, even boiling shoe leather for food. In total, over 1 million civilians lost their lives during the siege, yet the city held firm. The siege finally lifted in 1944, but the toll it took on the people was immeasurable. Leningrad's resistance became a symbol of Soviet resilience during World War II. The siege remains one of the longest and most devastating in modern history, showing how far a population could be pushed in the name of survival. Number 1. The Siege of Tenochtitlan, 1521. The Siege of Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire, was a clash of civilizations. When Spanish conquistadors, led by Hernán Cortés, allied with indigenous enemies of the Aztecs, they aimed to take control of the Aztec Empire's grand city. Cortés's forces blocked off causeways and cut the city's water supply. For over 3 months, the Aztecs held out, fighting fiercely against the Spanish and their allies. Starvation, disease, and violence decimated the population. By the time the Spanish entered the city, it was a shadow of its former self, with countless dead and buildings in ruins. The fall of Tenochtitlan marked the end of the Aztec Empire. This siege not only led to immense bloodshed, but also paved the way for Spanish rule in Mexico and the rapid expansion of European colonialism in the Americas. Throughout history, sieges have tested the limits of human endurance and resolve. These 5 sieges, Jerusalem, Constantinople, Baghdad, Leningrad, and Tenochtitlan, remind us of the horrors of war and the heavy price of conquest. As we look back, these stories serve as both a warning and a testament to the resilience of those who lived through some of humanity's darkest days.